It's a really odd one. Hopefully we can pick things up and get moving with Doolan in charge, but I don't really know how to word it. Andy Holt, I appreciate his transparency on the whole thing.
Yeah.
His report was published today, and I don't think you're going to get many managers that will come out and tell you why they've sacked a manager.
Yeah.
So for me, I thought, as confusing as it is, it was a very good thing to come out with. And yeah, it's just, they've been at the club so long. That's all I've ever known at Accrington. So to see them go, it is quite a shock, but I think it's time.
The thing that shocked me the most is, like, I get you can't have, like, just blind loyalty to, people in football nowadays, but I know his statement today was a lot better than the original statement, but I think the original statement was so poor. Like, even now, the original statement is so poor. The fact that you've got guys there that have given you so many good years of service, and there wasn't as much as a thank you on the original statement, you know what I mean? And I think that's really poor. But one thing that really surprised me today was the fact that he just came out in his statement and one of the paragraphs said, last year they lost us 600 grand, this year they lost us $1 million. I'm like, fucking hell, talk about throwing people under the bus, Jesus Christ.
In terms of the original statement, I can see where the club have come from, because when you sack a manager, it's such an awkward situation because you don't want to write a whole thank you, because the original statement was, we have sacked, we've parted ways. So I do feel like they've done it in, and it's an odd one again, but there was a statement released the day after by, I think he's David Burgess, and he then went on to say what they've done for the club, and I feel as though having them separate has worked better than having it all together, because it could have looked a bit odd, like, oh yeah, we've sacked them, but we would like to then point out this, and this. So I feel as though having it separate has worked.
Yeah, I get that.
Sorry.
No, go on, Aaron. You go.
I said I also like the fact that he pointed out in his statement that he's limited his social media activity because he's butting head with fans.
Yeah, it's been an odd time on Twitter for Accrington, and then it's also a case of, it's rumoured at the moment, I think it's around 30 players we could have out of contract at the end of the season.
Oh wow!
So that's like your full squad near enough gone. Yeah. So it's an odd time, but hopefully we can group back together and get going again.
Hopefully. I think as well, I think like you said as well, Rebecca, I think it was time for a change, wasn't it? I think it's all maybe come about in a wrong way, because at the minute it just seems a bit unsettled and stuff as a whole, doesn't it? Like putting up the club for sale and things like that. I just think it does seem a bit unsettled. But in one respect as well, if it all does go through, and obviously the new manager, the players, it may be scary, but at least it's kind of a bit of a fresh start, because I think you kind of needed that, because like you said, with John Coleman, it's all we've known from Accrington, apart from when obviously he left to go to Rochdale and then he went straight back to Accrington, didn't he? Everyone's like, all of us, like most of our ages, are all always familiar with John Coleman and Accrington Stanley. And he was actually one of the long-serving managers, wasn't he? And until he went to Rochdale, I think it was Alex Ferguson, Arsene Wenger, John Coleman, like them types. And then he went to Rochdale, and then obviously he's come back. And I just feel like with him, at first when I saw the news, I was a bit like, oh no, we should have worded that differently. Should have put like, they've been there for years. Sorry, there's a fly. There's a fly flying around my head. They've been there for years. They should have said something better. But now I've come to think about it, like you said, I think when you do sack a manager, you kind of do that, don't you? Take it away and then come out and maybe thank them and stuff later, especially considering they've been there for so long. So I was the same, where I was like, no, why have we done this? They should have had more respect for them. They've been there years, blah, blah, blah. But yeah, I think we're keeping it separate. And then obviously emotions were all high and everything, and emotions were all raw as well. So you don't really want to put something out and then kind of backtrack on it. So yeah, I think they kind of did the right thing and then let it settle. And then obviously this has come out, and
Yeah.
as fans, all you're asking for is like transparency as well, isn't it? So that's that today. When I've read it as well, you can't get more transparent than that. Obviously, it is like, wow, a bit like daunting and stuff, where it's like at least he's being transparent, and that's all you want. And it was the same with our club as well. We were very much like that. We wanted transparency, and then our chairman's been as transparent, and as fans, that's all you want, isn't it, really?
Yeah. Then another thing with Corley at the time, we had noticed that team selection, as limited as it is, it did become, we knew who was going to be in, and things just weren't happening. And as like I can go on, my favourite player was not getting played, and you're just there like, he's there on the bench, get him on for 10 minutes. You've got like different things happening, just put him on. And then it just became like it was the same week in, week out. And especially with recent performances, we travelled to Walsall, Wrexham, they were like, it was hard to watch.
Yeah.
And then it's like, hopefully the new manager, the interim manager that we've got, will kickstart it again, because players were dropping off, and then might even be able to change it up. So the likes of Seb Quirk, he could get match time now because he's back fully fit, and like you just want to see a bit of a change. So I feel as though that could happen now.
Definitely. I hope so as well. And obviously there's a new manager bounce, and there's different like tactics, different style of play as well. And I noticed as well, obviously we didn't have him as long as he was at Accrington, but I felt like with John Coleman, he was very stubborn. Like his selections, and he did have kind of his favourites and stuff. And I feel like it was kind of old school, like some of his tactics and things like that. I don't know if it's like altered since obviously coming back to use, but I felt like he was kind of old school again. And I feel like it, as much as they have done very well for yous, and like you said, you're in awe of like what they've achieved at Accrington, I feel like sometimes it is good to have that change, isn't it? Especially when football's adapting and things. So, and with obviously the club as a whole, if it does go through, and if you do get investors and you do get new people coming by in the club, it hopefully it's not a bad thing and you can move on. So yeah, hopefully it's exciting times, because I do like Accrington.
Yeah, one thing that we do have to say about John and Jimmy is the support that they had for HerGameToo while at the club. I think you might have seen for our dedicated fixture, we had them all in glasses.
It was so good.
Everyone was shocked that we're able to get Corley in them, but one main takeaway from them being at Accrington is they have been nothing but supportive for the campaign. So that is a big, big, big plus.
Love that. They do come across as really good, genuine guys as well, like family guys and stuff. So yeah, that is really good. And like I said, hopefully it's the start of some exciting times. Fingers crossed for you, because I know it can be a bit scary as well, especially the change. It's like, whoa, what do we do? I know exactly. I know that too well.